All right, welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing. Today I'm with Mike Franz. He's a manufacturing leader who's all about optimizing operations and driving efficiency. He has a knack for taking the processes and taking them to the next level. And I think part of that has to do with shop floor coffee. It gives you that boost, gives you the ability to handle situations, right? So, Mike, thank you so much for joining.
David, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. Can't wait to chit chat with you about what's going on in the world of manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious about the backstory of Shop Floor Coffee and the whole purpose, the why behind it. If you wouldn't mind just kind of elaborating on that.
Yeah, it was actually, we started it so I could get a whole bunch of gear. No, I'm just kidding, man. No, I feel like I'm a little overwhelming with all the stuff that's back here right now. But anyway, that's part of it. No, we started, Amy Teal and we started Shop Floor Coffee basically because we got a little bit, it was starting to really bother us that here in our home state of Minnesota, that nationwide, that there's this huge problem with workforce development and finding good people and finding people to fill critical manufacturing positions. And there's tons of them open. I mean, tons, hundreds of thousands of open, great paying jobs that kids these days may or may not be aware of, that they're out there. They may not be aware of how great a career in manufacturing can be. And we honestly went to an event that I've been going to for several years. And one of the top issues that is recurring, it's like a broken record, that workforce development is an issue not only here in the state, but across the country. And we said, well, what the heck can we do about it? So Amy and I were literally having a cup of coffee one morning. We're like, you know what? Let's start a coffee company. So we came up with a couple of clever names for some coffees. And next thing you know, I'm on this awesome podcast with you talking about this, how the company was developed and began. And our main mission, and it's kind of funny, we've changed kind of our focus, which is we're a workforce development improvement company that happens to sell coffee. So we're trying to really take it to the next level as far as bringing awareness to this great industry. And hey, what better way to have a cup of coffee with somebody and talk about it? So that's a long-winded answer, but that's really the basis and the origin of what and how Shop Floor Coffee started.
That's phenomenal. It's cool to see too how it transpired, right? You're having a cup of coffee and you're thinking about some of the problems that are happening within the workforce, and you're like, you know what? Let's start this coffee company. So you had your what's the name of the other company that you have, and then you started Shop Floor Coffee from that?
Well, I have a software development company that had two products, and I've been in and around the industry for whether it's I worked for, say, industrial distribution, worked in a machine shop there was a tier one supplier for the power sport industry or power sport industry, and kind of learned how things go within a shop, how things aren't supposed to go within a shop. Huge learning experiences on what really can drive a shop and what can really make a manufacturing facility hum and not hum. There's a lot of challenges that everybody faces within that. So I've seen kind of, and then I worked for an OEM that sold directly into an OEM that sold directly into manufacturing facilities. So I've seen kind of a circle and gain some different perspective on the industry and how it all operates. So that's kind of I guess my background in. I've always called it the triple threat position. It's weird to kind of say it that way. Way back in the day, just a short little dude playing basketball, but there's a thing called the triple threat position where it's pass,
Yep,
shoot,
that's
or dribble. Yeah, I'm sure you know it. And that's kind of how I look at my career of it being within manufacturing. It's like, okay, I've sold into it. I've been a manufacturer. I've worked for OEMs. I've worked for distribution. I purchased products as part of the manufacturer. So it's all over the board. Never actually ran a machine, but I can kind of talk my way around it a little bit. So
That's awesome. And sometimes that gives you that outsider's perspective. You see how the company is running and operating. And sometimes when you're in the middle of stuff, you can't really see some of the errors or things that are going wrong. So you can almost, in your position, you're able to see sort of the whole circle of manufacturing. So it's kind of cool and unique to give you that perspective.
Yeah, it was, I don't claim to be an expert on much, but one of the company I worked for, one of the taglines was be a second set of eyes. And, being able to step back and not be jaded by, years of running a machine or something like that. There's always a nice little perspective that, I don't know if it rubbed people the wrong way, bringing an opinion to the table as not being like a pro's pro, but sometimes, a second set of eyes to add some value to a process or a procedure or something like that can improve efficiencies, can improve output. Some of those things, even just, the actual layout of a line. That was one thing that I thought was super interesting when I was back in the day when I was more involved with that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And now as far as you talked about this when we talked recently. So what is you're giving back with workforce development? Can you explain on that a little bit? Because I think that's a really cool message and I don't know, just a good sentiment to have for the industry.
Yeah, it's really been super rewarding. Like ever since we kind of started it, we started it as, I don't want to say it on a whim, but we planned it out and figured, okay, we have a lot of network connections within the industry. We have a lot of connections within more on the distribution and sales and marketing side that we could take lives. And we thought, okay, well, if we can do that, maybe there's some legs to this and we could really potentially make a difference. We saw a niche that's out there as far as one of the things that I've heard throughout my career is there's two huge problems on a shop floor. One is the toilet paper and one is the coffee. And that's consistent. That's been consistent through 20 years of talking with people. And we're like, okay, well, we're not gonna start making toilet paper, so let's make coffee and try and change maybe the quality of coffee that can go into a shop, and also improve not only that, but also give back to workforce development programs. And we're proud to do that. And we've been working here locally in Minnesota with some great organizations, giving back and starting to see real results from that. But then also on the national scale, we've partnered up with quite a few organizations that are really, really doing some cool stuff. And David, it's really been like an awesome, as I mentioned, rewarding experience, but also a huge learning experience because there are a lot of people and a lot of groups, organizations, associations that are trying to do a great thing. And what I've found over the last year or so, we just celebrated our first year anniversary, but in that time, I've learned a ton about awareness. And here in Minnesota, I can just speak to that real quick, is that there are a lot of manufacturers, companies that just maybe don't know that there are programs and things out there for them to take advantage of, to find or get involved with to help develop the next generation of manufacturers. So some of that awareness is cool to push it out there. And there's a lot of social media. I mean, you're doing an awesome thing by helping promote things. On this podcast, there's a lot of other people that are ramping up, and it's been that way over the past few years, where I've seen a huge uptick in social media and how people are going to market, if you will, the importance of workforce development. So all that tied together, there's a lot of awareness that's being spread now, and it's really starting to make an impact. I feel that's just my little 2 cents on that, but yeah, the giving back is really, it's really rewarding, and seeing how um, the community is really getting behind what we're trying to do as well. So I
Hmm.
mentioned kind of a niche. There's a niche that we found, and we're just excited as hell to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned you're working a lot with some of these distribution centers and salespeople, and I know as a salesperson, coffee is necessary. So you're never going to be short of people that need coffee, and it's backed with a great cause. So you can't go wrong with that.
Well, we'll have to get you some hydraulic fluid, man. That's our top seller, and it is
Oh, nice.
it's a dark roast that's fantastic. I know, a little product plug here, but I wouldn't be a sales guy if I didn't try to sneak something in. But the
Yeah, no, absolutely.
hydraulic fluid first shift. Little known fact about coffee, that I've learned a ton about coffee over the last year and a half. Done these things called cuppings, where you slurp it in, and you try and get the full flavor within your whole
Oh,
mouth and nose, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's a little known fact that light roast coffee actually has more caffeine than dark roast coffee. And there's a lot of people that don't know that. They think it's kind of the opposite. But if you think about in the manufacturing process, and when you're actually roasting coffee, the more you roast it, the darker it gets. And also, that burns off some of the caffeine that's actually within the coffee bean. So the lighter the roast, the higher dose of caffeine that you're going to get. So if you're looking to for that morning pick me up, choose a light roast.
yeah, absolutely. I That is actually a fact I knew. My brother worked in the coffee industry for over a decade, so
Nice.
he would tell me all these stories, and I'm like, I'm not going to retain any of that, but that is the one fact I actually retained out of it. He's
Nice.
like, yeah, it grows best on these hilly mountains in Ecuador, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah,
Man,
it's
well,
fascinating though.
I can't wait to, hopefully, and knock on some wood here again, but hopefully one day get to travel to see that entire process, and how you know the beans are grown, and how it's cultivated, and where and why, and all those things. But that'll be someday. But then the whole manufacturing process behind it too. I mean, we're talking about supporting manufacturing, and I want to understand exactly what goes into it. I know I'm learning about the roasting process, and the machines, and the technology that goes into it, and it's all we're making stuff. We're making stuff,
Yes.
and it's that's one of the cool things, that getting involved with the local roaster here in Minnesota, that's been a fantastic partner of ours, going and seeing their facility, and my mind starts going as far as, oh man, this is a production process. Where can efficiencies come into play, and how can we make this thing hum a little bit more? And it's just so funny. I haven't opened my big mouth when it comes to that yet, but maybe one day.
But when you have enough hydraulic fluid, you'll say
That's
something
right.
maybe.
That's right.
Well, we're out of time. Mike, thank you so much for the experience and the insight that you bring. I'm super excited to try Shop Floor Coffee, especially because it goes to a great cause. For those of you watching, stay tuned for more industry leaders and take care.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate it.